Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. I'm Matt. Good to see you. Good to have you here. We're going to talk about WWE, Vince McMahon news. He's just not done. God damn it. And then we're going to talk about a little bit of AEW Fight Forever, what we could be seeing as potential for a season 2. And we got a little bit more that just came in regarding CM Punk. There's a lot going on. Also, I won't forget. I'll try not to forget, but we got a Raw preview because it's Monday, apparently. I do wonder if Raw is going to continue on Monday nights. We'll have to wait and see. But we'll get right into the Vince McMahon. And as we do, as always, do Matt a favor. Hit the subscribe button as we're going towards 100,000. But before we do that, we got a quick stop. It's like the Fastlane thing. We got the road to WrestleMania. We got the road to 100K. We're almost there. We got to make a pit stop at 94,000. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the like button. Let's talk about Vince McMahon. God damn it. Let's talk about. All right. I'm not in charge, but I want to be in charge. I want to be on all the charge. Vince McMahon, goddammit. Report Vince McMahon overruled and power marginalized. What do you mean you marginalize me? You can't marginalize me, goddammit. I go to my meetings. I go to my new office when I got a dinosaur on my wall. Goddammit, pal. And I want people to acknowledge me. Not the tribal chief. Me. What a maneuver! Anyways, following the news that Endeavor CEO Ari Emanuel reported granting Paul Triple H Levesque full creative control, WWE's product. Everything is going to be sledgehammers, golden shovels, World Heavyweight Championship. Triple H. A new report has now cast light on McMahon's current power within the company. And while Levesque has served as your tribal chief, no, I'm kidding, as WWE's chief content officer since Vince McMahon's WWE retirement in July of 2022, is it that long since Vince did the naughty business? It feels like it's been shorter. Like we're still in it, but it never ends, does it? Upon McMahon's return at the beginning of the year, it had been reported that the 78-year-old, he's just coming out there, got my cane. Get out there, goddammit. And the old Vince McMahon had a final say on the company's product. This led to the reports of McMahon making script changes, most notably the Raw after WrestleMania 39. That one was terrible. You remember that? And you see video footage of like Seth getting notes or getting talked to by production, coming in, doing the whoa, and then leaving, never saying a word. It was such a hot mess for Mania 39. You clearly saw Vince McMahon with his cane and his fingerprints all over that bad boy. God damn it. And then, however, in recent months, there has been far less news on similar occurrences. It seems like he's taken a bit of a back seat. Just as it seemed like it was starting to happen again, though, it appears the last couple of weeks have been a different story. Following the latest report on Emmanuel granting Triple H full influence of all WE product, Dave Meltzer, oh God help us, discussed the situation on the latest Observer Radio, saying that, Kenny Omega, it's a 7-star match. Good match. My Dave Meltzer is borderline Trump. No one needs that in their life. He discusses how Emmanuel's stance has seemingly changed on McMahon's power recently. Meltzer explained, well, he's out of creative. He's not having a good match. Vince McMahon is having a 1-star match right now. It's a big story because Ari Emanuel, when they were on the verge of closing the deal and had actually closed the deal in April, did media rounds and said, Vince will be in charge of the company. And if me and Vince have a disagreement, it goes the way of Vince wants because Vince is the guy. Well, he's lying. He's got to be lying a little bit here, guys, because Ari Emanuel is the one in charge. He can placate and pat Vince on the bum and be like, "It's okay, Vince. You're the boss. We couldn't do this without you." I think I have my tinfoil hat on, ladies and gentlemen, because my whole suspicion with all of this Vince McMahon stuff, the marginalized power, Ari Emanuel, the TKO, the merger, my whole suspicion is Ari Emanuel, he ain't no dummy. I don't know the man, never met the man, only seen his face in the interviews and such. But from everything, all accounts, everything that's going on with WWE and this merger, what I think Ari Emanuel is doing, he's playing chess. He's playing a big old game of chess. What is he doing exactly? He is playing Vince McMahon. That's my thought. That's my suspicion. I think he's playing Vince like a fiddle. He's stroking his ego. He got him in there as chairman. He, Endeavor, have the voting power over WWE. They could technically vote Vince out. I think Ari Emanuel knows that it's going to come crumbling down on Vince, and Ari is going to be in a position where he goes, we have to ask you to exit. You need to exit. We need to vote you out because these things come to light. I think it's all going to happen anyways, and it's going to result in Ari Emanuel owning all of WWE and TKO. And Vince will be out, finally, and they'll have Nick Khan, and they'll have Triple H in there running the show day to day. That's my thought, but we'll see. So then, as Meltzer continues to say, so then the deal went through, and it only went through about a month ago, and already Vince is out of creative because of Ari Emanuel. Meltzer continues to say, this is a real interesting thing because it's for the first time Vince is now in the position that his father was in 84 when his father had run the company for years and years and years. And then he was just an employee of Vince Jr. That's an interesting take. Although he hates that term, Vincent Kennedy McMahon. Vincent Kennedy McMahon was the guy making all the decisions. And now Vince was in fact overruled, even though when he merged the company, he was told this would not happen. It did happen. And it's a really interesting thing. And that statement when Ari Emanuel was talking about the reasons the stock is down, he mentioned Vince's name, which we talked about last week. Meltzer continues to say that, so, it's very interesting that it's going to be happen, but Vince's power clearly marginalized. There's no way around that. Triple H, latest shakeup on screen. A product was by separating control of Raw and SmackDown, and we did get a big shakeup because we got Nick Aldis, former NWA World Heavyweight Champion, Magnus. We got the big man in there. Magnus is your general manager. And if you don't follow Nick Aldis, go watch any of his matches. Nick Aldis is tremendous. But it seems like a very Triple H thing to bring in Nick Aldis as the SmackDown general manager. You keep the other guy on the Raw, and that's fine. So I got no problems with that. But I'm interested to see what we will do. What will happen with the Vince and Kenny McMahon. But what do you guys think? Do you think that Vince is really going to be out? I kind of feel like he's going to be gonzo in officially by the end of the year. I think he gets to the end. You know what I think? I think he gets to the end of the year. He gets his big stock buyout at the end. The stock has been going down. TKO is not going to want that as a brand new merged company entity. Vince stays around until he can get the final big bonus at the very end of the year. Take all his stock options out. Kiss it goodbye. He walks away as a billionaire, and then WWE TKO Endeavor can move away from the era of Vince McMahon, and they can move into the new season, the new TV deals, everything else, where they got USA with SmackDown, potentially USA with Raw and NXT, and will be without Vince McMahon. I still would love to see what a true product run by Triple H looks like. I think we're getting there. I think it's always been kind of just a little with Vince McMahon still kind of lurking in the shadows. But if this is true, where Triple H has been anointed, given all the power by Ari to say, you're in charge, you run the show how you feel, I think WWE will only get better in terms of storytelling, character development, because that's Triple H's big thing, is developing stories, developing characters. Not everything's a home run, but I think the product can get better. We've seen some ups and downs and ebbs and flows. This year, for example, this WrestleMania, if things go down with Vince and he's not really around at all, literally exits the company, it will be the first WrestleMania run by Triple H, creative. And it'll be very interesting to see what a 2-night WrestleMania of just Triple H looks like. Yes, also Nick Aldis, looking at the chat, Dragonheart, shout out to you. Nick Aldis had the best line ever to introduce himself to a WWE audience. Goes up to Dominic Mysterio and says, Dom, nice to meet you. I'm a big fan of your dad's. It was the best. Nick Aldis rocks. So, Vince McMahon, interesting take. Interesting to see what will happen with him. Hopefully it is bye-bye Vince. I need a change. The guy's almost 80 years old. He's not contributing nothing. I don't need Vince McMahon on my TV. Certainly not on my TV. I don't need him around anything. But I want to see Triple H fully running this thing without interference, without getting blindsided by anything else. Now, let's move on to the news, ladies and gentlemen. I got one more little tidbit of news. You want to talk 2K23? You might get some information this week. You may not. Because What's the Status has a little bit of info for us regarding potential My Faction, Hold On, and DLC. Let me talk to you. Let me show you what I mean. You guys will decide for yourself. Status posted this just this morning. He's retweeting his original thing. He says, this tweet will be relevant soon, hopefully in a good way. Hashtag 2K23. His original tweet was, let's talk about Bad Bunny at its slot in 23. If you're not familiar, Bad Bunny's Backlash attire, his whole look and everything was found in the files for the game. It was there. Looks like it would be my faction, but not confirmed. He says, but before we do, this is back in August when he wrote this, let me make something clear. When my faction models get added in, they do not come with Creative Superstar parts. If Creative Superstar parts are included, it's because they have been there since 2K20. Okay, so they added a slot for Bad Bunny 23. The slot isn't content damage. The slot does not have a My Faction flag, because when it does that, it means that you can't use it. Like it's locked. The slot contains a flag called DLC3. This slot has a Creative Superstar parts link to it, as in it was programmed to be edited in the creation studio. That's a first. While this is the last patch, including DLC, I still think they might add something for Bad Bunny down the line with the data I found. So that is a retweet from him, and he says this tweet will be relevant soon, which tells me that he's looked at something for the last round of My Faction. There wasn't really a patch update that was in there, but it could be something good. Could be something good. We could end up with like a future DLC. We could get a surprise Bad Bunny edition for 2K23. Maybe testing out new ways of adding content in right before 24. See, if they did this, it'd be a great way for 2K to kind of gauge player reaction. Because the biggest hang up we all have, ladies and gentlemen, at least here in this community, it's a fine community, we get the updates. We're not fans of My Faction. The locked element of the My Faction. Not a fan. Gabe says, not a status fan at all. That's okay. You don't have to like everybody, but you hang out here anyways. But we could end up with a Bad Bunny DLC, and it could be run in a different way. If things are going to work out for us as players, what we could end up seeing is something like Bad Bunny as a specialized single DLC for players to purchase, maybe done through an unlocking element of My Faction. Maybe it is something that they're planning to test. We don't know. We're all speculating here. We're all learning here, Tony. We'll see what they do. I'd like to see them go ahead with trying to test something out where you unlock, say, Bad Bunny, put him in My Faction. Maybe they make this a test. Put him in My Faction, and then we get to unlock him by grinding or paying $2 to be able to get Bad Bunny Backlash attire. You already got the fan in there? You're good to go. I'm a fan of Assemble for sure. You are? Thank you, MDB. I appreciate it. Way to go. Bad Bunny is already in the game, but his 2023 model is not from his Backlash look, and they're going to update all of it. So his hair, everything, his textures could all be updated. Could give you something new. But what do you guys think? VJC in the chat says if we could use My Faction outside of other stuff of My Faction, then maybe I would play My Faction a bit more. So would I. I would sit here and then grind it out so I could get all the models. No problem with that, because then I'm earning something tangible, more tangible than a card. I don't need the cards. When will Good Bunny be in the game? Adam, that's hilarious. No idea. I don't even know who that person is. But we move on. Let's talk about AEW Fight Forever on the other side of the pendulum. We got 2K23, 2K24 coming out in the very near future. But what about Fight Forever? Well, Fight Forever could have a little bit of a future here, people. Could. Grinding. Pharrell. He's great. Update on the future of AEW Fight Forever. Well. Look what's back. Not really, but we could see something here. If you haven't, guys, check out today's video because I cover this more in depth, give you some big insights. But you're here live, so let's get into it. As this is coming from WrestleTalk, and it's sourced by Fightful.com. I said Fight Forever. Not sourced by Fight Forever. Sourced by Fightful Select. As AEW Fight Forever approaches 4 months, everybody. 4 months. That's it. This game's been out for a quarter. And that's it. Since it's been on the shelves. It's a bloody $60. A new report has revealed what fans can expect from the game going forward. AEW game was met with mixed reception, to say the least. Some people are like, I had a great time. Some people are like, I uninstalled it and I deleted it. Others are meh. Others are saying they'll come back to me when they get something in the game. Well, we might get in some luck here. Concerns have raised over the future support of the game from fans, with the game only receiving one new game mode, Stadium Stampede. It was there. And a handful of roster additions, courtesy of paid DLC. They also did some additional attire downloads in there too, guys. So if you're like, I never turned it on beyond the first week or two, Stadium Stampede came out with the online mode. It was basically Fortnite, but for wrestling. It was very bland, in my opinion. It didn't offer a lot. It got players to spam it, to, not play friendly. And the player base, the active player base was like 10. So it kept going down. It was a bit of a letdown. I was excited for it because I thought alternative, different, new, something that is fresh, different. I'm all into it. But it didn't deliver. It didn't do enough for players, and the player base off Stadium Stampede went down instantly. In those patches, they did release more attires for wrestlers, which I like, but it was randomized. It was like 7 Wardlow attires, 5 John Moxleys, and just like a couple. Sting got a couple. Like random people got new looks, new attires, I should say, but it wasn't across the board. So it was just, I don't know what the point of that was, but no creation suite parts, no updates to the in-game. They have, to their credit, they have done, AEW Games and THQ Nordic have gone in and put in 2 substantial patches, but that is to fix like game-breaking stuff. Nothing in the way of real updates, real changes. So, following up these concerns, Fightful Select reached out in an attempt to gather more information on the future plans of the game, despite there being a heavy internal push to promote the game. To pause there for a second, the heavy internal push could, as I speculate, could just be we put AEW Fight Forever graphics on Dynamite and Collision and Rampage, and they're there, and our pay-per-views, it's on the banners. And we put it around ringside. The ring announcers don't mention it, as far as I know. I never see commercials for Fight Forever. So they just put up graphics for it. They put up graphics in the lower third, and that's generally what they do for their push, at least from the viewer's perspective. Maybe internally they do way more. Maybe they do press events and they're all over it. I don't know. Particularly at talent meetings. That's interesting. Fight Forever reportedly has not been a topic of discussion backstage in the company lately. That I find a little weird. So it says, despite there being a heavy internal push to promote the game, particularly at talent meetings. So at talent meetings, they're talking about push the game. Fight Forever reportedly has not been a topic of discussion backstage in the company lately. So you're going into, according to that report from Sean Ross Sapp and the team, Fightful, there's talent meetings. And within the talent meetings, amongst many different things, one of the things they bring up is the video game and talking about we should promote this. But then you're saying in the same thing that they're not talking about it backstage. I'm confused. Talking about it or not talking about it? Tony's talking a lot, not about the video game, but Tony's talking a lot about how John Cena and Undertaker can't pull 1 million. Well, you can't pull 1 million players in your video game. Whoop-ha! That's a cheap dig. Fightful had then added that they had also been told in recent weeks that scans for new AEW talent had been done recently in an attempt to get them added to the game. While it's unclear who exactly this could pertain to, there are top talents in the roster not currently included, such as Swerve Strickland. They said Christian Cage. Christian's in Fight Forever. Like, I haven't played in a month. More. Christian's in the game, right? I can see him. Yes, he is. He's in the game. And of course, Adam Copeland. For future updates and roster additions to the gameplay, stay tuned to Wrestle Talk. Well, you can stay tuned to Assemble for all your stuff. So, Maribel asked me when am I going to talk about CM Punk? It's next on the list. Hang with me. Don't go nowhere. I'll talk about CM Punk in one moment. So, Fight Forever. I don't know. You could do scans. You can talk to me about how you got scans for the game all set up, but to be honest, they have reported before that they scanned the Acclaim. They've scanned other wrestlers when the game was coming out, and those talents are not in the game. So they can scan talents all day long. It doesn't mean they're going to be in the video game. Even if they are, even if you get the rest of House of Black, Cargill, House of Black, the Acclaimed with Billy Gunn, Jake Roberts, Arn Anderson, Jamie Hayter, Saraya, on and on it goes. Dina, ROH talent, Will Ospreay. Like, if you could give me lots and lots and lots of DLC as part of a season 2, but the big problem is there's no considerable updates, substantial updates to fix the core game. I think what players are really lacking is not the roster. Right now, players' big objection is coming to the game and saying, there's no new match types. I did the couple of match types. There's nothing else for me to really do in here. I did Road to Elite. Maybe I had some fun, then it's over. You got no reason and motivation to go back to it. You don't even get things like a cage match, tornado tag, gauntlet match, handicap match, things that are in Road to Elite, but locked and not unlocked, which they should just unlock it. Just unlock it. So, I think they need to do a little bit more. I think they need to do more on the game updates, the core game itself, before you start saying, here's a season 2. This is where I think that they need to go in that direction, because if they come out, if AEW Games feels that the way that they are going to get their player base back up again is by introducing a season 2 of content headlined by Edge, let's just say, okay? You got big headliner Adam Copeland as the main figure for DLC Season 2. So people go wild and crazy and go, wow, they're doing something big. And you get all those stars that I just mentioned as part of Season 2. Big rollout, big massive DLC update. Doing that over the course of, let's just say, the holidays. So we get into end of November, December, start again at the end of January. You keep going month over month. You give us like 3 to 4 months worth of content and DLC. Fine. To me, it's not enough. I don't need Edge in my game. Like, I like it. I like to see it. I like to play as him. But I can do that in my 2K game. Forget that for a second, though. Yes, I can do that in my 2K game. But more to the point, I don't think it's enough to get players to come back. Because I think where players will say no is they see Edge on the cover of Season 2 DLC. And they will turn around, at least the core base will, and say, so what are the fixes to the game? And I think they will ignore whatever new content comes out in the form of DLC. We don't need more wrestlers right now. We will. But I think the community would rather see gameplay, match types, modes, improvements, core improvements over new additions and resources going into adding to the roster at this time. That's what I think. I don't think we need Edge and the Acclaimed right now. That's not what people are clamoring for to get back in the game, because you lost, in theory, you lost so many people after the first week to 2 weeks. They're not motivated to go back in and play with the existing roster as it is. You need to give people the incentive for the replayability to go back in there and play. I want to go and play with the existing roster because there's nothing wrong with the roster. It's not the issue. So if they are only going to do roster updates, and that's what we get, you're going to bring back in your core base. The core base of players are going to come back for the time for the DLC. But guess what? We got the Hookhausen DLC. Was there an increase in player base online? Not really. You got Bunny and Keith Lee. That lasted a day. Hardcore players for Fight Forever will come back because they already got the season pass, for example. They're going to play with the content that they ordered. Check it out. But there's nothing else to do. Once you've played with Hook and Danhausen once, twice, the core game is fundamentally has flaws. So you need to get that fixed first. That's all I got to say about that. Let's talk about CM Punk for a minute. Oh, this guy, he's back. Look into my eyes. What do you see? Raw and USA and CM Punk E. WWE draws attention to recent CM Punk tease. This is coming over from WrestleTalk. When CM Punk was terminated from AEW with cause back on September 2nd, following the investigation at Wembley Stadium, we merged potential WWE return. CM Punk went and he was doing commentary for MMA, and he even alluded to again over the weekend about November. We're getting close to Survivor Series, which is in Chicago, which is going to be the big rumor. The other big rumor, aside from Punk, for Chicago in Survivor Series, WWE, and that was everyone's reporting that there's nothing going on, that WWE has basically turned that off, and that it's not happening. The other big rumor was the report of Randy Orton making a return. So maybe at Chicago, at Survivor Series, we don't get Punk, but we get Randy Orton. We'll see. But with Chicago playing a host to Survivor Series this year, many saw that as the event that Punk will return to the company for it to happen. Recently, fans, and also, you know what, it'd be also kind of really good timing. If it wasn't Survivor Series in Chicago, it was Royal Rumble. Punk's last event was the Royal Rumble before he walked out. Remember, he did like Didn't he do like the Monday Night Raw after the Royal Rumble? And he was going in a program with Kane, and then he was just gone, right? Then it was over. So he did the Royal Rumble. So Royal Rumble was his final show. It'd be kind of interesting if he came back at the Royal Rumble as well, in a full circle. But fans, they're thinking that they've been noticing numerous teases of Punk on television, which included last week's Raw when Shinsuke Nakamura hit Ricochet with a GTS. WWE sources have said that any references to Punk are purely coincidental, and reports have emerged saying that the two sides are not in discussions, and that WWE even rejected a chance to bring Punk back. However, WWE has drawn major attention to Nakamura's recent tease, uploading the clip to their Instagram account alongside a caption saying, "Shinsuke hits GTS." The video also features comment from USA Network Instagram account simply saying, "Best in the world." WrestleOps has this right here. So if we go and take a look over here, Rick O'Shea. WrestleOps has this, LOL. USA Network replies to this, "Shinsuke hits GTS. Best in the world." Come on. USA Network also, with WrestleOps doing that, USA Network also waved at them after on Twitter. Come on. Okay. We're either getting trolled completely. Punk's coming back. He's coming back. USA Network has no business commenting on that. Just, you got CM Punk. They got the new deal with SmackDown. They still got Monday Night Raw for another year. They've been talking about, they have been referencing him so much. And you know what? It's a very Triple H thing to do. Look at the White Rabbit. What they did with that with Bray leading up to his return. They started off small little hints, things teased in the background, and it got bigger and bigger and bigger until it was in your face with glitchiness and all this stuff. They built the White Rabbit super slow and got fans talking about it online. I gotta believe, I'm gonna go all in as a mark, even though my name is Matt, and I'm gonna say Punk is gonna come back. And I think that this is what it's all about. I think we've gotten the commentary teases. CM Punk doing the MMA commentary over the weekend, even again talking about whatever he said, like it's almost November. Stay tuned for November. Chicago, Survivor Series, November. If USA Network is coming in, they're saying best in the world. You can't tell me USA Network is that clever with the guy running the marketing account for Instagram on the USA Network going, yeah, best in the world. You can't do that. Like, I'm sorry. They're not doing that. That's not getting by USA Network. You don't got Johnny on the USA Network Instagram account typing in best in the world. They're not. That's all got to be on purpose. All part of the plan. And if it is happening, and I know Sean Ross Sapp has said that, like, with reports that, people he's talked to internally, WWE and such, that they're saying no to CM Punk. It's, you know what, ultimately, it's the fun thing about being a wrestling fan, because you get told this isn't going to happen. It's the, yeah, but what if it does? That's the magic of wrestling to me, is it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Yeah, but it could happen. Yeah, but what if it did happen? Yeah, but what if they're lying and it is happening? That's all the fun, because then you built up Survivor Series, which is already reported to be sold out in Chicago. There's a lot happening in Survivor Series as it is, but to go on top of that with the rumblings all weekend long that CM Punk could show up at Survivor Series, I'm tuning in. And you know what? Punk versus Nakamura? Be a lot of fun. Building Nakamura up like they have as going up against Seth Rollins. They built him up as a really quality heel. The international sensation of Shinsuke Nakamura. He's back. I love all the vignettes they've done with him. You're making Shinsuke over the last several months very vicious. Shinsuke versus CM Punk as CM Punk's first match feud back. Do that for a month. You get Shinsuke to beat up Ricochet. Have him go and beat up Ricochet for a couple of weeks. If Shinsuke does a DTS again, and this time in the ring to Ricochet, come on. Then I'm going to say it's Ricochet versus Shin at Crown Jewel. Shinsuke is going to win because he needs the wins after the losses to Seth Rollins. He needs to be built back up. You give Shinsuke lots of wins. You start introducing the GTS as one of his moves. Then all you need him to do is just say Shinsuke to do a translation in a vignette where he says best in the world. And then you get Chicago, you get Shinsuke coming out to the ring, or you just get Chicago and CM Punk's music hits and he comes out. Oh, I would lose my mind. Rick O'Shea over Ricochet. I agree. Punk versus Ricochet would be cool, says D'Angelo. I agree. Miggy Sato, super chat. Thank you so much. I don't care about returns. I just want Adam. So do I. Thank you very much for your super. I want Adam too. We all do. But it's interesting. It gets people talking, man. It's at least interesting. WWE, though, doesn't, as we stay on the CM Punk news for a second here, WWE doesn't need Punk. Would it hurt them? No. Would it help the Raw ratings, especially during football season? Yeah. Little bit. Would it help anchor the WrestleMania? Yeah. Little bit. They're on a roll. That's where I'm like, they don't need CM Punk. WWE's doing just fine with what they got. You haven't even debuted Jade Cargill in the ring yet. You're okay. Is Punk a needle mover? In Collision, he was. But AEW's a whole different beast, and they're doing a lot of wacky things over there as well. They're not doing the whole greatest thing when it comes to their product at the moment, in my opinion. But man, it'd be good to see Punk on Raw. Bring up the Brinks truck, get a lot of money in there, have him go up against Shinsuke, then get a WrestleMania match against him versus Seth for the world title. Have CM Punk do his world title run, which would be hilarious. It's just like he is the world's champion again because he never lost the other belt. So he'd be double champion. And he'd technically be champion of two companies. I'm just messing with you guys, but it'd still be funny. It'd still be hilarious. James says, hypothetically, I could see Punk putting talent over in WWE. So could I. I could see him at this point in his career, like he was doing in AEW, working with other talent. His whole return in AEW, the first run, he was working with other undercard talent almost all the time. He was trying to put other talent over. He was working those matches. And majority of the talent in WWE are just big talent, big names. So I could see Punk coming in and having a one-time match, first-time return against a Shinsuke Nakamura. A guy he can work with, doing more of a brawling style, submissions, doing that, nothing crazy high-flying, very safe. He can have a Shinsuke feud. Do that for a few weeks. Get him on TV. Get a lot of promos in. Then he can move on to Drew McIntyre. He could go and try to fight Gunther. He could just go right to Seth Rollins. Judgment Day. There's so much they could do with Punk. It'd be great. But we'll wait and see. Ladies and gentlemen, as we get into the next bit of news of what we've got planned here, do me a favor. We're going to pause for the cause. This episode is sponsored by me, Assemble. Hi. You don't have to do anything, but if you care to do it, the best way you can support the show is by hitting subscribe in that like button. Or not, you don't have to. If you already did, it's all good too. You could just chill out and hang out and have the news read to you. Let me feed you to your ears all day, every day. And I want to keep talking about more news here because the next bit of news is Jade Cargill files for new trademark ahead of the WWE in-ring debut. So, former AEW TBS champion Jade Cargill has made a trademark filing ahead of her in-ring debut per the United States Patent Office. Cargill, through Jade Cargill LLC, filed an application for the trademark name Jade Cargill on October 11th. According to the filing, Cargill intends to trademark cover categories related to entertainment in the nature of wrestling contests. Following description accompanying the filing. Entertainment services, namely wrestling exhibits and performances by professional wrestler and entertainer. Entertainer services, namely television appearances, professional wrestling sports entertainer, providing wrestling news, information via global computer network, blah, blah, blah. Cargill has made several appearances. We've seen her at the Fastlane show. We've seen her at NXT. We have now seen her go face-to-face backstage with Charlotte on SmackDown. worn different attires for every show. You got to figure this is the season premiere of Monday Night Raw coming up tonight, which we will preview Monday Night Raw here on the show as well. Jade's going to come out in red. That's what's going to happen. It's like, great. But maybe they'll actually talk about what show she's going to be on. We still don't know. I want to see where do you guys think that Jade ends up when it comes to the roster? At this point, I don't see her in NXT. I see her on Monday Night Raw. Give them the boost going into the fall, kind of like I've said about CM Punk. But give them the boost going into the fall season with Jade really headlining and pushing Monday Night Raw. She can beat up Nia Jax and defeat her. You can have Shayna Baszler. You could have the inevitable Natalya match that will always happen to everybody. And eventually rolled up to Rhea Ripley. I don't think she goes up to Rhea Ripley. I think Rhea is going to have a match with probably Becky at WrestleMania. But a good way to get the NXT title off of Becky to move into the Royal Rumble season is have Jade beat Becky on Monday Night Raw or at NXT pay-per-view. She introduced Jade on Monday Night Raw and have exhibition matches just so people can see her. Really just curious overall how they utilize Jade and how that we've seen her show up, but I want to see how they introduce her in the matches. What's the story? How it's the positioning? Miggy Sato also says Jade on 2K24 maybe DLC. I 100% agree. She's made this many appearances already. She's got to get one in-ring debut. Could be on Raw. Could be at Survivor Series. They could do something wild, but they can get her scanned and get her in time. I think 2K is foolish if they don't get her done. And you know what? It was also foolish of AEW to not jump over Jade Cargill and let her walk. And Tony Khan's been making kind of a mess of how he's handled those things, along with how he's handled social media as of late. And with that, Jim Cornette weighs in on Tony Khan's recent social media activity. Jim Cornette's got some thoughts on TK. Jim, here we go. If you guys were sitting under a rock all last week, you had the NXT versus Dynamite show, the Tuesday Tower Wars, whatever you call it, Tony wanted to call it. Tony's in a war with himself. He took shots at Vince. He took shots at Triple H. He took shots at John Cena Undertaker for not cracking $1 million. It's a lot of Tony Khan fighting with himself. Jim Cornette spoke length on Cornette's drive-thru, saying things like, he's on Cage Match, and I listened to this, by the way. I watched this on YouTube for Cornette's clips, because I did want to hear what he was saying about Tony Khan. Cornette said he's on Cage Match, and he's on Twitter. Tony Khan has gone on Cage Match and replied to them on Twitter, responding to message boards, just like fans, because they're like, just taking shots back and forth with fans. It's ridiculous. Cornette says he just fired his biggest star, CM Punk, but he got another one to replace him, Edge. And he's about to make his TV debut on a show that's going to get its effing ass kicked in goddamn ratings, and he's got time to do this. Cornette also mentioned that Khan has yet to publicly acknowledge the controversy surrounding Juice Robinson MJF by adding, this is the day after the show, as he addressed making mainstream news outlets for being anti-Semitic in the middle of a horrendous war where people have been butchered. Did he bring that up when he was fighting about numbers on Twitter? Khan's tweets about alleged WWE contract tampering about his mom in the hospital, same thing. Cornette says, okay, it may be relevant because it happened 1 year ago today, but it also happens to be right after everybody on Twitter, including some people who used to support all of Tony's endeavors, have blistered him for acting like a effing 12-year-old on Twitter, arguing with people and trying to salvage a victory somehow, like, well, it's the first time that they ever beat us by this little kind of logic. Cornette continues by saying, and so now he's saying, well, it's personal because of what they did to me while my mom was sick, and we're glad his mom got well. We don't want his mother to be sick. But if that's the only thing that made his business personal, maybe the problem is it's never been a business, it's been personal. But not a personal grudge. He wants people to personally like him. And when they don't, and when he loses control of it, and when they wipe their feet on him, or when somebody knocks what he thinks he does well, he melts down because he's not used to that, because everybody has humored him because he owned everything. I'm not going to go into further about Jim Cornette here. Sometimes I agree and disagree with Cornette. This is one of those things where I agree with Cornette because Tony should be focusing on his product in a different way, not going to cage side seats, cagematch.com, Twitter, and just talking to fans and going back and forth. Tony seeing that people don't agree with his opinion. They don't agree with how things are running. Tony using the situation with his mother, that like it's 1 year anniversary and there was contract tampering to create a thread. Like, I believe those events happened where he was with his ill mother, and at the same token, in the same time, he was dealing with AEW talent talking to him about contract tampering while it was all going on. So I get that. But you don't need to air that online. What's the point? What's the point of that? He's talked about the contract tampering for years now. Take legal action and don't talk about it, or just don't talk about it. Move on. Do it behind closed doors. So I don't get the need to do all of this. You don't need to talk about your mother. You could talk about your mother on Twitter. You could say nice things, but you don't have to rope your business into it. And then he's trying to justify it by saying it's personal. You need to lead your product. He's not getting the positive reactions, reinforcement, I think, from social media like he used to when AEW first launched, and everyone's like, cool, this guy is like, he's one of the guys, and, you know, he likes indie wrestling and New Japan wrestling and Ring of Honor, and he's doing this great thing. Tony's so cool. He's young. Like, he's not Vince McMahon. Now, as 4 years have gone by, and we've seen the ups and really highs of AEW, and we've seen the downs and the lack of direction, the lack of storytelling, the lack of featuring different talent, the lack of featuring the women's division altogether. On and on it goes. The lack of promotion, the weird storylines that are just added and dropped week after week, come and go. There's no through lines with a lot of different things other than like maybe the main event shows and talents. You bring in CM Punk, you let him run his own show. You have to let him go because of all the backstage stuff. You bring in Edge. Great. But what are we going to do with him? And how is Tony going to grow his product? Because you can bring in all the talents you want every single month, but you're not growing arenas. Your arenas are shrinking. Yeah, there's footage and clips online, everybody, of like, here is Collision, Edge in the ring, and it's like, there's nobody there. Some of the stuff was like for Ring of Honor tapings, which happened after the show, so I get that there'd be even fewer people. But there's like clear shots of like in the ring when Edge is doing his promo to kick off a show. There's giant sections of the arena that are empty. For Collision, or Dynamite, Edge is not your answer. One talent is not the answer. It's a culmination of doing everything right and people wanting to come and see and experience your product live, because they may not need to right now, because they can say, why do I need to go and spend $200-$300 on a ticket for a show? I could just see this on TV and I'll be fine. What's on the show that I really need to see? Well, we got Adam Copeland. You go, yeah, that's cool, but I'm not spending hundreds of dollars to go see one guy. The whole show is entertaining. Then you go on the flip side to a WWE where you're going, why do I want tickets to SmackDown? Well, different product. But you're getting a John Cena. Maybe you're getting a Roman Reigns, the Usos. Cody and Jay might show up this week as a tag team on SmackDown. The point is that there's a lot of incentive to maybe go to a WWE show, and because there's a lot of storylines happening. They're building up a lot of talent as big names, big headlining talent, top to bottom. There's a lot you want to go see. And on LA Knight, of course. But on AEW programming, you may want to go see, because you can see Bryan Danielson and Swerve and Kenny Omega and Edge and Christian and a lot of other people. But there's not a lot of stories, so you're just getting wrestling matches. That's okay, because if that's your thing and that's all you want is like, I just want to go see a 2-hour wrestling show. Wonderful. But it's not growing the audience. It's not doing the things he needs to do. And I think that's what's the problem with Tony Khan right now is I think there's a lot more going on. And Cornette did mention this on his podcast, and I do agree. He did mention, not verbatim here, guys, but he did say, like, this is one of the things I think that this is Cornette. He believes like kind of straw that broke the camel's back. You know, it's the one thing that like, it seems like Tony Khan went way over the edge with the Tuesday Night War thing, all his reactions on Twitter. It seems like something, it really got to him. It can't just be the one thing that made him go from 0 to 100 and go overboard with all of this. I think it's a culmination of things. Because you start looking back, we as the audience, as fans and Twitter and all this, we look at it and go, man, this guy is freaking out of nowhere with these Twitter reactions, engaging fans, telling them to go F themselves, like doing all these things that are not good leadership qualities. And I think there's a possibility that it is a culmination of things happening over the last year. Tony's going through TV negotiations. Maybe that's not going great. They're trying to get to do 12 pay-per-views a year. That hasn't been formally announced. Arena numbers, show numbers are down for live attendance. It's not good. Viewership on Dynamite and Collision on a week-to-week basis is never going. Forget Tuesdays head-to-head. That doesn't matter. But on a regular basis, it's never going beyond 800. And Collision, which is only a few months old, Collision aired in the summer. It's new. It hasn't even been around for like a full quarter of TV. It's not even 6 months old for Collision. And their numbers have gone from 7 to 6, 4s. We've seen 300,000s, back up to 5s. It's not going great in a lot of respects. And quarter by quarter, if Tony Khan's all Mr. Numbers and all of that, numbers overall for Dynamite and Collision, it's not growing. He can maintain a viewership on Collision of 400 to 500,000 steadily across the board. That's great. But over and over again, same with Dynamite, it can go from 900,000 sometimes, go down to 8, 6, average out around 7 to 8. It might not have, sometimes it has huge dips and volleys back up a bit. You get an MJF segment, for example. But I think it's a culmination of a lot of things over several months to a year of business isn't that booming for AEW. It's a lot of, this is okay. Match. Not a lot of stories. And I'm not seeing the growth. If I was somebody invested in AEW as a product, I would be looking at the TV numbers and all of that going, well, your product doesn't seem to get past 800,000. How do we get it past 800,000? That should be your goal if you're Tony Khan. And maybe he's trying to figure that out every day. But he seems, to the public perception right now is Tony Khan seems way more interested in having beefs on Twitter than focusing in on improving his product. And that's what's really wrong here, I think. I think he needs to be doing more with what he's got. And I think he's stretching himself too thin. I think the networks, if they pushed him to get Collision, I think he's got way too much programming. Because when AEW was best, in my opinion, it was 2 hours of Dynamite. And you had 4 pay-per-views a year with some specialty shows. Before Rampage, I liked Dynamite a lot because it was 2 hours of like, I gotta watch this because it's the only 2 hours of this TV wrestling program that I can see every week. And their pay-per-views. It meant a lot more. Would you see a lot of talent? Not always. Was it a mess? Sometimes. Some of the stories were excellent. But I felt like it was more must-see programming. Then you got Rampage. Well, then you debuted CM Punk on Rampage. And you made Rampage to be the 1 hour, extra hour of Dynamite essentially in the beginning. It was supposed to be almost that third hour of Dynamite. Then it very quickly shifted and Punk wasn't on Dynamite and neither were any other big names like the Bucks, Kenny Omega, anybody else. It was all geared towards Dynamite. So Rampage became Sunday Night Heat or Velocity. It became your smaller talent, guys that are trying to get a couple of minutes, your QT Marshall headlining Rampage. Though not a lot of people watch it, nobody's going to it. Then you got Collision, and the network says, let's get Collision. We're going to headline it all with CM Punk and build a whole show around one guy. Well, that's not a good way to run business if I think of anything. Because it's not going to work in the long term because the guy gets injured and then you don't have that guy. Or worse yet, what we did get, which was CM Punk got in a fight. Things went south. Now he's gone. Now you got Edge. Now you got Edge on Collision. Well, what happens if Edge gets injured in a month? I hope not. I don't want anybody to get injured. But you seem to be spearheading and focusing one show one guy. And even WWE, to counteract that point, does WWE build SmackDown all around Roman Reigns and the bloodline? Yeah, 100%. But they have more elements to work with because Roman Reigns isn't on TV every week, and they've done a better job of being like, well, when Roman's not here, guess what? The bloodline story can continue on without him, and the ratings don't really suffer. That's a lot. Look at Triple H. Just for a second. Triple H. Triple H is given full control, created by Endeavor. We did talk about this. I just was going to see if we had any new updates when it came to this. McMahon has other roles in the company. This change perhaps prevents him from sticking his nose in the creative when it comes to WWE. Following Endeavor takeover, McMahon's power has decreased slightly, led to CEO Ari Emanuel making some changes. Sports Illustrated revealed that per Endeavor, Ari Emanuel Paul Levesque is full control of WWE creative. I'm happy for Triple H. The guy who works hard, finally got the books. Doesn't necessarily have Vince McMahon, in his ear, having to appease him with different segments and storylines. We get the little backstage stuff now you can see on like Raw, where it's like, oh, who's talking in the background, that kind of thing. Hopefully we can see a little bit more when it comes to what Triple H's real vision is. Multiple contacts within WWE and UFC have confirmed that Ari Emanuel, who wields power as the Endeavor CEO, is behind the changes. Emanuel has long been a firm believer that in order for an organization to be as effective as possible, people need to do the job they are assigned to. Thank you, Ari Emanuel. You don't need Vince McMahon standing there trying to do stuff, doing a bunch of nonsense. Doesn't work. Let me talk to you. So, guys, we're going to do our Raw preview in just a second. We'll take a look at what's coming up tonight on Monday Night Raw. We'll take a second here and we'll answer some questions in the chat. So if you guys are channel members, you get highlighted. You get a little bit more priority in here. That's one of the benefits. You get the emotes like Michelle. You get the F out if you're being just a tool bag. You get Yeet. You get Adam as well, which is one of the best emotes we ever came up with. But if you're just not, and you're just general supporters and you're watching here, I'll try and answer your questions too. Trevon says, not all show Punk was on. He did good. Saturday is always a bad spot for wrestling. I 100% agree. I think it's not going to help them when once a month Collision goes up against WWE programming. On top of that, it's got college football, regular football, baseball playoffs, World Series right now. Like, Saturday's a hard night to have a WWE program. I'm just waiting to see another CM Punk reference, Enigma. Same. Brian's a big Cody fan. Tim just says Adam, which is great. Should be doing. We need Daniel Garcia and dance emote. I can do that. Try and do that. Did you see the Adam shirt on Pro Wrestling Tees? I did not. I gotta go check that out too. I gotta see that. Let's see here. Well, that's Adam Cole. We need to go probably to what? Roderick Strong? Because he's got the Next Strong shirt, right? Oh, he does have the Adam shirt. Look at that. That's awesome. Strong. Even little Ted. He's got the bracelet, the hospital tag. Says Strong. Roderick. Date of birth? Adam. That's ADM? Adam. That's awesome. Oh, that's great. That's great. Jamie says, in my opinion, AEW's issue is the demand is not there for the supply. They're offering too many shows. I agree. I'd like to see them maybe just ditch Rampage. I mean, man, it's not going to happen, but like you got to get the programming down tighter. If you're not, and you're going to stick with what you got, 5 hours of TV programming plus pay-per-views, you got to get more compelling stories for me. Tim says, I feel like Nick Aldis got a very underwhelming introduction as SmackDown GM. I agree. I think it was awkward that they brought him in from the side, and Triple H is like, Nick Aldis. They used him on TV for multiple segments, which was great to get people familiar, but I thought the intro was a little flat as well. $29.99 for that? $29.99 for that? Yeah, man. For a shirt that says Adam on it, and I like it. Trevon says, I mean, to be fair, it's Tulsa. They ain't gonna know who he is. True. Tulsa not know who Nick Aldis is? AEW haven't been around long enough for 2 shows, let alone 3. Sean, I do agree. I think you should be mastering your current product. I think that they are running the risk and have been running the risk of oversaturation and under-delivering the product. More is not always better. If you had a tight 2-hour program and that's all you offered, you nailed it, and maybe you do some more specialty one-off shows on Saturdays where you're going to get a Winter is Coming or a Wrestle Dream or something else where you're going to say, hey, we're going to put on a special program this Saturday or Sunday like a pay-per-view, that can go a long way. You can do hotshot specialty shows, but putting out 5 hours of TV, I ain't got 5 hours to watch all that wrestling. It's way too much wrestling as it is. If you're a diehard AEW fan, great. Maybe you like all of it. Plus, you got a Ring of Honor in there, too. I don't know who's buying Ring of Honor for $9.99 a month. I don't know who the current Ring of Honor champions are across the board. Eddie Kingston is one of the belts. But, I can't follow everything. And then, you know what? The other problem I've had with AEW overall is, and WWE has this problem with titles, not putting in enough titles, like women's titles, tag titles are a mess. AEW, for the longest time, Tony Khan introduces Ring of Honor. So what does he do? He's got Ring of Honor titles left and right on Dynamite, just putting them all on there. Then he does cross-promotional stuff with New Japan. So you got New Japan champions showing up on the show. Then you've also got the regular AEW champions, and you've got a North International title, and you renamed it to the International title. You got trios titles. You got more belts than anybody knows what to do with. You have too many titles, and for your core hardcore audience, yes, they know what it is. They know all those belts. They know everyone in Ring of Honor and New Japan and Dynamite, and they get it. But to grow your audience, for the casual wrestling viewer, for the new person to AEW, my man, that is confusing. Samoa Joe is your Ring of Honor television champion. Get a casual wrestling fan who's checking out AEW. They like Samoa Joe. Maybe they've seen him in WWE. Then they go, what is Ring of Honor? Or why is he holding this belt? Is this a Ring of Honor show? No, this is Dynamite. Oh, okay. It gets to be confusing if you are a casual fan. Adam Cole and MJF are Ring of Honor Tag Team Champions / MJF is the World Heavyweight Champion, and they have put more emphasis on MJF being a Ring of Honor Tag Team Champion than the Heavyweight Champion. It is secondary belt to the tag titles right now, and that's insane. Focus on AEW. You can own everything, Tony. You can own your Ring of Honor. You can own New Japan. Keep them separate. The odd crossover, fine. But you already have enough titles. Who are the trios champions in AEW right now? I don't know. I can't remember. You just had Ricky Starks and Big Bill win the tag titles off FTR because we thought that they were injured for real. And they're back on Collision. Why did they drop the tag titles? Oh, is the Acclaimed? Do the Acclaimed have the trios titles? The Acclaimed, yeah. Yeah, the Acclaimed are great. But who are they feuding with? It just keeps going where I'm just like, you got all these titles. No one's doing anything, man. Ah, well. We'll have to see. The Acclaimed do have the custom scissor belts. Yes, those are great. Those are wonderful. And the Acclaimed are wonderful. But Tony Khan's doing too much, and it's too much of a hot mess. And he needs to strip down and go back to what worked for him in the first year. It's only been the fourth year. He's just passed 3 years. He's just passed 4 years, of having a mainstream wrestling product. He needs to figure this thing out. And he needs to figure it out fast. Guys, if you are going to stay with us for just a minute, we're going to wrap things up for the main live show. We're going to go into answering your questions, community questions. The last thing I will touch on is just with regards to some WWE 2K creations. If you guys are interested, we do have some new ones here from What's the Status, as well as Azortheus, collaboration between the two of them. But Status with Azortheus, and the guys, they got APA. They just did that. He just did a Shinsuke Nakamura. They also released, I think over the weekend, we've got Shinsuke's there. Oh, yeah. They just came out with the Raw's Warpack expansion. Volume 8. Road Dogg, Jesse James, Badass Billy Gunn. They're out too. They got a lot of stuff coming out for creations. So if you guys are interested, make sure you go and support them because they're doing a ton of stuff. They also came out with Roman Reigns with his gear from SmackDown, which is great. Before we do wrap up, though, we do have a quick Raw preview for you here if you're interested. Oh, you didn't know? All right, we got Cody Rhodes and Jey Uso to face the Judgment Day in a rematch for the Undisputed Tag Titles. Are they going to drop the tag titles? Probably not. I'm curious what Sami Zayn's involvement's going to be on SmackDown. Kevin Owens being traded over to SmackDown. This stuff has me interested. See how it's going to all play out. Big Bronson Reed is also going to get an Intercontinental title match against Gunther. Don't see Bronson Reed winning, but I think we're going to get big men slap meat. It's going to be a good showing for Bronson Reed. They're doing a good job now. You notice how Bronson Reed is getting more and more of a push? Vince McMahon is not really around as much. You notice that? But that's going to be a hell of a match. Shinsuke versus Ricochet. Falls count anywhere. Shinsuke needs to win this, in my opinion, to further the story. But I love Shinsuke's heel work. And we also get Shayna Baszler looks to end the nightmare of Rhea Ripley. Is this a title? This is in a non-title match. But it's good to see Rhea Ripley's actually going to have a wrestling match. Rhea Ripley has not wrestled on Raw in forever, it feels like. But they're mixing it up with the women's division on Raw, which is good. It's been very stale on Raw. The women's division on SmackDown, I felt, has been on fire with their programming. Raw, I felt like, has been totally flat because Rhea's just in the men's Judgment Day stories going there, and she's never fighting anybody for the women's title. So it's going to be interesting to see what they're going to do with this. Sami Zayn, like I said, is an interesting point with Judgment Day and Cody and Jey and all of this, what they're going to do there. I really don't want it to be main event of the Judgment Day versus Cody and Jey. I love all of them. I think it's great. It's just every Monday Night Raw, it ends with a Judgment Day match. It's a little bit too much. They need to come up with a new solution. Put Rhea in the main event. I want to see more stuff. Different stuff. But it is the premiere. It's a season premiere of Monday Night Raw. They should be giving us those matches, which are all pretty big, and they should give us even more on the show. I want to see what they're going to do. Adam Pearce is officially running Monday Night Raw. Nick Aldis is on SmackDown. Brand separation, so I like that. There's going to be some intrigue there to see what they're going to do, and then we're moving towards Crown Jewel in like a week or so. So we'll have to wait and see. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us here live and on demand. If you are on demand, click that like button, subscribe. If you're joining us live right now, stick around because we will do a little bit of community Q&A with you, answer some questions, comments, concerns, gripes, all that good stuff. But thank you so much for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Bye. Let me talk to you. What do you want?
Let me talk to you.